After a 3-week break, the second round of the F1 season is finally approaching as the grid line up in Imola for the second year running. So let's take a look at what we can expect from this year's race in about 5 minutes. Imola was a track that until last year had remained off the calendar since 2006, following an adjustment to the track layout and a resurfacing that was supposed to lead to Imola staying in the track rotation at the top level of motor racing. Unfortunately for the track owners, it took over a decade for the track to re-emerge on the calendar. The track, which is officially called the Autodromo Internazionale Enzo e Dino Ferrari, sorry for my pronunciation there, is situated in the small Italian town of Imola, about 25 miles east of Bologna. Last year the race took place in round 13, which was in early November, which means it has only been 6 months since we last visited the track. At the time, the only driver on the grid with experience of the track in an F1 car was Kimi Räikkönen, but this year the level of experience on the track is much more evened out due to the fact we raced there last season. Given that the cars aren't a huge departure from 6 months ago, it's a good bet that the teams have a decent amount of data going into the weekend. The circuit, built in 1953, was an unfortunate history of being one that has taken the lives of several drivers, including that of the much acclaimed racer Ayrton Senna, who crashed here in 1994. Since then, changes to the track were made in an attempt to avoid a repeat of that tragic weekend. Track conditions. At the point of writing this, the weather is predicted to be slightly overcast, with a low wind speed and slim chance of rain. However, given we're in the spring, that could change at short notice and we may end up with a bit of a different track for the drivers over the weekend. Historically, the circuit has featured both dry and wet races, but given the speeds possible on this track, I'm definitely hoping for a dry one. Practice makes perfect. With reduced practice time from 1.5 hour sessions down to 1 hour sessions this year, I'd expect the teams to quickly try and get the cars out and get the laps in. Data is all important and learning everything they can about the car is key. With it being 3 weeks since the last race, you can expect them to have some significant changes to the aero on some of the cars, while they try and learn from the data they collected during the first round in Bahrain. Practice sessions are rarely representative of how the race will go, so expect to see some AlphaTauris at the top ends of the leaderboard, along with the likes of McLaren. Qualifying. Lewis Hamilton is on track to get his 99th pole position if he can pull ahead of the encroaching Red Bull of Max Verstappen and his own teammate Valtteri Bottas, who beat him by the 10th of a second in qualifying last year. At this point in the season, we don't know enough about the cars to make any solid predictions about who will come out in front. While the likes of Hamilton, Bottas and Verstappen are likely to show up near the top of the qualifying times, there are others such as Perez, Norris and Ricciardo who could be ready to steal a second or third place if the conditions are right. We're still yet to see Perez or Ricciardo put in a top showing in their new cars, but there's a good chance for either of them to pull out some magic here. The race. For a 1 minute 20 second lap, I could probably spend all day doing a virtual track walk to the point of interesting areas of the circuit. I've tried to cut this down as much as I can, but honestly this is a great track. There's a relatively short straight before we go into turn 1, known as Tumbarella, a quick chicane that isn't likely to cause too much trouble to the drivers later in the race, but could cause a little chaos in the opening laps, while the cars are still quite bunched up. Here's hoping that Mazepin notices a turn here at all, and doesn't just fly off into another driver. Following the chicane, you find yourself on another short straight as you pick up some speed into Villeneuve Corner, which offers the drivers the opportunity to make the most of the action that came out of the first corner at Tumbarello. The Villeneuve Corner itself can be quite punishing, with the grass and gravel lined edges offering a true punishment for anyone who ventures too far from the track limits. This is a track where we aren't likely to see a repeat of the Bahrain track limit controversy. Tosa is next, an uphill climb on a relatively tight left-hand corner. This does offer the chance for some overtaking if you can steal the inside line and leave the other cars on the outside of the track. Next we approach Piratella, which continued climb with a slight right turn is likely to be driven flat out, before the track then starts to descend again as you reach Acqua Minerale. A very fast double right that offers a great opportunity for overtaking. Then we approach the Variante Alta, a sharp chicane which reduces speed a little before we head down the straight into Rivazza. Double left here is another opportunity we could see some overtaking if the drivers can benefit from a bit of slipstream. From there it's a straight all the way to the line, which should be flat out from the exit of the two corners at Rivazza. Sectors 1 and 3 are likely to see more opportunities for racing, while Sector 2 will challenge anyone who is lining up a challenge on a position. Predictions. I can really see this being a fantastic race, with this potentially being the place where the contenders such as Red Bull really come out and shine. Last year proved that the track can bring about a little chaos, with only 15 of the 20 cars reaching the finish line, but it also showed some surprise finishes from Daniel Kvyat, driving for AlphaTauri, and Daniel Ricciardo in his Renault. This was the site of a rare Ricciardo podium as in recent history, and honestly I could see McLaren pulling out the stops to repeat it for the driver, or for his teammate Lando Norris, this year. With their mixed history last year at the track, I'd also like to see Pierre Gasly have a real run at it, and his AlphaTauri teammate Tsunoda grabbing some more points along the way. It's hard to predict anything other than the Mercedes or Red Bull victory at this point. While other options aren't completely crazy to consider, there's no way I could call anyone else a favourite. So I'm going to stick my neck out on the prediction of a Verstappen victory, with one of the Mercedes close behind. As my final prediction, I think we're going to see a number of cars not finish, and I predict at least 3 cars will DNF, with at least one of those being a Haas. You can probably guess who I'm thinking of. Now it makes some sense here to talk about the Drivers' and Constructors' Championships results so far, but given we're only a race into the season, I'll point you to my review of the Bahrain race instead, if you're looking for any updates on the rankings so far. Instead, let's have a look at some fun facts about the track. The circuit is named after Ferrari's founder Enzo and his son Alfredo. In 2006, Alonso came second in the Grand Prix, so this will be a great place for him to pull out the stops for his new team Alpine. The winner in 2006 was Michael Schumacher, father of the Haas F1 driver Mick Schumacher. It's beyond all odds to expect Mick to pull out a victory at Imola this year, but in fairness to him, it will be hard to find a track that his father hasn't won at during his illustrious career. Unlike most tracks on the calendar, the Imola track runs anti-clockwise. While this may not seem like a big deal for any sim racing fans out there, the lateral forces applied in an anti-clockwise circuit are different from those in a clockwise track, putting some pressures on potentially less trained muscles in the driver's neck and shoulders. How many drivers do you think will reach the finish line at Imola this year? Leave your thoughts in the description below and drop us a like. Please subscribe and hit the notification bell so you don't miss out on any upcoming videos.